محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. I want to begin just by thanking you for giving me this opportunity to speak, and forgive me for any shortcomings. Well, I'm only a student of knowledge at the moment, and I am susceptible to make mistakes, inshallah. Forgive me for that. Today I want to speak about a topic that is very important, and that topic is the process of seeking knowledge. The process of seeking knowledge is commanded by Allah on many occasions in the Quran. We find that Allah Azza wa Jal refers to himself as Al-Alim in the Quran, meaning the all-knowing, and he refers to himself by that title 122 times. Also, we see that Allah uses the word A'lamu, which is the command form to mean to know. So he says A'lamu to the creation 27 times. For example, we see in the Quran, Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. He says that, so then you should all know that surely Allah is the mighty, the wise. He also says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. So then you should all know that surely Allah has knowledge of all things. So Allah, He emphasizes this point 27 times. And we find that the scholars, they come forward. For example, we have Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shirazi. He came with a group of scholars and looked at these 27 points, and he found that Allah, through these 27 points, talks about different aspects of knowing and gaining knowledge. So he talks about the reasons, and then he talks about the benefits of gaining knowledge. So inshallah we'll look into that a little bit further. But I wanted to first start off with the reason of gaining knowledge. What is the reason? What is the importance of gaining knowledge in Islam? So we see in Usul al-Kafi, the seventh Imam, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim, salawatullah salamu alayhi. He says to his companion Hisham, he says, Hisham, Allah did not appoint His prophets to His servants except that they may develop knowledge concerning Allah. So Allah didn't send the Anbiya apart from us gaining more knowledge of Allah. Then he continues and says, and the best in answering the call are those whose ma'rifah is the greatest. So we see that there are ranks and there are stations, and ma'rifah, gaining knowledge of Allah, gaining deep knowledge of Allah, is what is preferred by Allah. So we see that these ranks are there. And this is not just important for the servants, but also the prophets took it importantly as well. So we find that the prophets would always supplicate, and they would use the famous dua that we've all heard in the Quran, we've all probably read it as well, where the Prophet says, Rabbi zidni ilma. So he's saying, Allah, increase me in my knowledge. So we see even the prophets using these statements. Now, what's the importance of knowledge for us now? So do we need to gain knowledge? Is it important? Is it a mustahab act? Or is it actually more than that? So we find that the Prophet has said, and this is narrated in Bihar al-Anwar, he says that talabul ilm faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslima. So he says that gaining knowledge is a farida, it's an obligation, it's a wajib thing for us to do, and it is a wajib thing for every Muslim, man and woman. Yes? And then furthermore, we see that Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, he uses a similar narration, and he says talabul ilm faridatun ala kulli hal. So he said that gaining knowledge is important in every time or at all times. So we see that it doesn't matter what age we are or which time we're in, or like maybe we have distractions with work, or we have our phones or social media. But we find that gaining knowledge is an obligation at all times. It's a wajib act for us at all times. So what does it mean to gain knowledge? what categorizes us as people who are those people that are gaining knowledge. So again, another narration from the Prophet. The Prophet he categorized the people of knowledge into 5 camps. He says, "Ubdu aliman." So he says, always be a scholar, or he says, "Aw muta'alliman," meaning or a student of knowledge, someone gaining knowledge. "Aw mustami'an," or someone who's listening to knowledge, so sitting in gatherings and listening to knowledge. "Aw muhibban," so or someone who loves knowledge. "Wala takun al-khamis." So he says, and do not be of the 5th type. So what is this 5th type? This 5th type is basically none of the above. So if you're not a scholar or you're not a student of knowledge, then you should be someone that is at least listening to knowledge on a regular basis, or if not, you're someone that should be loving knowledge. So we find that the Prophet says that do not be the one that is not in these 4 categories. Don't be the 5th category, so that's someone who is none of these 4. So we find that it's very important to even be listening and even attending the gatherings where knowledge is being spread. So we find this even furthermore. So then there was one time where the Prophet went to the mosque, and he saw 2 groups of people in the mosque. He saw one group, they were worshipping Allah, they're doing dua, they're supplicating. Then he sees another group, and they're sitting together, they're teaching each other, they're learning knowledge from a scholar, they're all discussing knowledge. And the Prophet said that both of these groups are pleased, Allah is pleased with them, but I myself would personally rather be with the group that is seeking knowledge. So we see that Allah and His Prophet gives importance to knowledge, even more priority to knowledge than doing ibadah. So we find that it's even a higher form of ibadah. Yeah? And now, so some people might come forward and say that, I'm getting a bit old now and my time's up. I can't get knowledge anymore. I'm too busy with my life. I've got kids. I've got family. My time has passed, and that knowledge is for the younger people. But we find that Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And this is really powerful statement. He says that the ignorant person is a child, even if he is an old man. And he says the scholar is great, even if he happens to be young. So we find that even if you're an old person, but you are ignorant, then the Prophet and the Imam has said that you are like a child. So we need to always strive for knowledge, no matter our age, whether we're young, whether we're old. We should always strive for knowledge. And on this, it reminds me of a story that I heard once. This scholar once told me that we heard about Hisham before. Hisham was a very important companion of the 6th and 7th Imam. And one day the 6th Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Imam as-Sadiq was sat with his companions in the mosque, and a lot of his companions were sat around him. And they say that the companions, there was a wide range of companions there. So you had companions that had big beards with grey hairs in them, so they were quite old companions. They've been studying with the Imam for so many years, and we even find some of the family members of the Imam being around him as well. So the Imam's teaching them, and then suddenly the people see that Imam as-Sadiq has stood up, and he's welcoming this young boy. This young boy walks in, and it's Hisham. He brings Hisham forward, he welcomes him, he greets him, then he sits Hisham next to him. So the companions are confused. They said, why is it Imam Sadiq took this young boy and sat him next to him? So later on the Imam explains that Hisham spent his time seeking knowledge and defending the beliefs of the Ahlul Bayt in front of the other people. So in front of the different schools, he would go out and defend the madhab of the Ahlul Bayt. And the narrations say that Hisham was so young that on his face, he'd only just started to develop facial hair. So he'd only just reached bulugh. So we see that Hisham has been taking preference over these people with long beards and grey hairs just because of his seeking knowledge. Now, what are the qualities of these people that have sought knowledge? What are the qualities that people of knowledge have? So Allah says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. So he says that those of his servants only who are possessed of knowledge fear Allah. So we find that fearing Allah is a really important quality. So we find that those people that have more knowledge, they tend to fear Allah more. And Imam Ali said that the person who has the most knowledge is the one whose fear of Allah is the greatest. So we see that having fear of Allah is a sign of knowledge, and having these altruistic qualities and these qualities of being ascetic are really important when you're gaining knowledge. So we see this again where Allah says to Musa, he says to him that surely my righteous servants show detachment towards the world. So one of the signs of having knowledge is that you're detached from the world. We're detached from, constantly going out there to seek money or wealth, or we're, attached to the world because we're glued to our phones or the TV, for example. So he says that surely my servants show detachment to the world according to the amount of knowledge that they possess about me. And then the Imam Ali goes on and says that, and from the benefits of knowledge are that a person gains taqwa, that they forsake their base desires, so again, they're seeking detachment from the world, and they abandon sins. So we find that the more knowledge we have more taqwa, we stay away from sins, and we stay away from the desires that we find in the world. And finally, I just want to end on a really nice hadith that I found in a book, the 40 hadith by Ayatollah Khomeini. And in this hadith is basically talking about the pursuit of knowledge. So he basically has a strong chain of narration, and he says that the Prophet says that one who proceeds on the path of pursuing knowledge, God makes him proceed on the path to paradise. So you find that knowledge and striving towards Jannah are parallel with each other there, yeah? And then he says that the angels spread their wings for the seekers of knowledge out of delight. So the angels are so pleased with the seekers of knowledge that they spread their wings for them. Furthermore, we find that he says that every creature of the heaven and earth asks for his forgiveness. So every creature in heaven and earth asks for forgiveness for the one that seeks knowledge. And he goes even further and says that even the fish in the sea. So we find that the creation of Allah, they all seek the forgiveness of the person that's seeking knowledge. And then he says that the merit of the alim over the abid is like the moon over the stars on a full moon night. So when we have a full moon night, the moon glows far more than the stars. So we see that the alim has a higher precedence over the abid. And then furthermore he says, learned are the heirs of the prophets. They left no inheritance of the knowledge. So here he's saying that the people that gain knowledge, they end up becoming the heirs of the prophets. So they end up becoming the successors of the prophets, in the sense of that they took their knowledge and they've continued their message through preaching the knowledge. And lastly, he says that whoever partakes of it derives a lot of benefit. So we find that seeking knowledge has a lot of benefit, and inshallah, maybe through these words, we might strive to seek more knowledge and gain more ma'rifah and increase in our fear of Allah and our piety of Allah. We do dua that inshallah Allah increases our ilm and makes us more God conscious and striving for knowledge, inshallah. And I ask again for your forgiveness for any shortcomings on my behalf. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ما شاء الله أحسنت.